In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Be seated. If you are 6 or under, I know we've been in here for a long time and would like to get some wiggles out. Miss Morgan is happy to, I promise this isn't going to be a long sermon though. So, Miss Morgan is there if anyone needs to get some wiggles out. And otherwise, we're going to move into the sermon. So, among the roles that I play that I wouldn't have believed you if you told me I was going to be playing them, say, 20 years ago, soccer dad is one that I didn't see coming, but it is part of kind of who I am and what our life is, and it is a wonderful surprise, but it is a surprise. If you had told 18-year-old Quinn that was in the future, he would not have believed that. But here we are, and something strikes me about soccer stuff, with youth soccer particularly. And it is just the amount of noise, particularly the amount of voices at any given soccer game. I thought that this had reached its apex at what is called Rugrats soccer, right? So this is the very youngest kids. Their shin guards are like as long as their legs kind of thing. And I was at a Rugrats soccer game one day, and I kid you not, 2 parents almost got into a fist fight over this 4-year-old playing soccer. It was very intense. I thought, oh, it can't get worse than that. I now have a 12-year-old playing soccer, and it has increased to getting a lot more intense at the games. So many voices at any given game, at any given moment. So some of them make some sense. You got the coaches. Right? Some coaches are noisier than others. Your coach this year is not terribly noisy. He's pretty mellow on the sidelines. So that's good. We're wrapping up Lent, so confession is good for the soul. So I will confess to you that I almost got kicked out of exactly one soccer game. It was when I was coaching our elementary school team at St. Peter's School, and I was giving the ref an earful, and he came over and warned me. And I was wearing my collar. And I decided that the press that St. Peter's Church and School didn't need was their priest getting kicked out of a soccer game. So I backed off a little bit, right? But there's all kinds of noise that comes from coaches, and often conflicting advice and instruction to kids. I said, how do they make any sense of what's going on? I don't understand how they're even making sense of it. But there's the coaches. The kids are also shouting a lot of different things at each other. That's marginally more helpful, I think, than what the coach usually has to say, because they actually know what's going on the field and are typically trying to help one another. Although every once in a while you'll hear something and you're just like, that is profoundly unhelpful. I was watching a game the other day and one of the kids was just good, "What are you doing?" Which is like the worst thing you can yell, because it doesn't say anything you actually should do, just what you shouldn't be doing. It's very confusing advice. I didn't tell him that after the game, but I was like, that kid, somebody needs to tell him, give better advice. So the kids are shouting at each other, and there are, of course, the parents, the dads, right? It's dads. It just almost is. Let's just be honest about that. All of whom believe that they know a lot more about soccer than the coach or the players or the referee or anyone else in the area. They are the experts. It doesn't matter if they've never watched a soccer game before in their life. And they are getting very loud. They are also yelling plenty of things into the field, right? So many voices, a cacophony of voices at any given soccer game. And I don't understand how anyone on the field makes sense of any of it. And I just sort of mention all that as a bit of a metaphor of what we get this week in the life of the church, of what Holy Week is like. Holy Week is a week of a cacophony of voices from all different directions, from all different kinds of people saying all kinds of different things. And it can make it difficult as we walk through Holy Week, as we walk through a day like Palm Sunday, to pick out what voices matter the most, to pick out what word we really need to hear in the midst of all of the voices. So what sort of voices do we hear during Holy Week? We hear voices of uncertainty. Jesus says to the disciples, "One of you will betray me." And they all say, surely not I, Lord. Even Judas, who knows he's going to betray him, surely not I. But there is uncertainty, there is doubt, there is questioning in the life and in the voices of the disciples as they walk through Holy Week. There are voices of outright betrayal. And of course, your mind here goes most immediately to Judas. Judas, the one who betrayed him. Judas, the betrayer. He's identified in today's gospel. But really, nearly all of the disciples betray Jesus. All of them scatter. All of them go away. St. Peter, of course, famously denies him multiple times, but all of the disciples walk away. There are some women that St. Matthew says are at the cross, and St. John is traditionally at the cross, but other than that, the disciples have gone. They betrayed, and so there are these voices of betrayal in Holy Week. Voices of accusation. The authorities, the religious authorities, the governmental authorities all think that they have all the answers, all think that they know what must be done, and all are leveling accusation after accusation. Witnesses are brought to give false witness against Jesus, and they sit there on the stand and lie about Jesus. There are voices of accusation at work. There are voices of anger and fury. Voices saying, crucify him. Give us Barabbas and let him be crucified. We hear our own voices this morning in those voices. And there are voices of mourning. The women who stand at the foot of the cross weep and wail and cry over the death of the Lord. So many voices from so many different directions. It is hard to make sense of any of it. It is hard to know how we should feel about any of it, where we should find ourselves in it, what we should do with all of those voices. And I think that one of the reasons that Holy Week is such a powerful week in our lives is, of course, the events that go on, the events that we as Christians believe absolutely reshape the entire universe. But it's also the way Holy Week, with all of those voices from all kinds of different directions, echoes so much of what life is like. Because life is full of voices that it's hard to make sense of which ones matter, which ones are actually meaningful, which ones we should listen to. Voices of uncertainty. Every single person here who has followed Jesus for any amount of time will tell you that there are seasons of doubt and uncertainty in the life of a disciple. There are seasons when we do not know what it is we would believe. We do not know how to hold on to faith in the midst of whatever it is we're going through. All of us have had seasons of doubt and darkness in our lives. Betrayal. We have all been betrayed by friends, loved ones, people we thought we could trust. And we'd also all played the role of betrayer, of betraying the trust of another. This is part of the voices of our life. Accusation. You aren't what you say you are. Voices of authority all around us coming down, thinking that they have all of the answers. Voices of anger and fury. We live in a culture that is built on keeping us outraged. That is what is everyone out there. There are 24-hour news cycles on the left and the right, and all that they want from any of you is for you to remain angry and hateful of people not like you. We live in a culture where voices of fury and outrage are all around us, and we have all, if we are honest about it, contributed to those voices in one way or another. And voices of mourning. Voices of our own griefs, the sense of our own sadness as we have walked through the very real stuff of life, and also we do not have to look far to know of the griefs that are felt in our world. We do not have to look past Nashville this week to know of the griefs that are felt in our world. We do not have to look past the folks to our west whose homes have been ravaged by tornadoes to know of the griefs that are at work in our world. The voice of grief, the voice of sorrow speaks loudly. And Holy Week kind of says to us, hear all of the voices. None of them are new. None of them are something that hasn't been felt before. They are all right here. They are all in this story that we tell this week. They are all in this week that has reshaped the entire universe. There is one voice that I haven't mentioned yet. There is one voice at the center of the stories we tell this week that is the one we must hear most clearly and most loudly. It is the voice that speaks the loudest truth. It is the voice of Jesus. In Matthew's gospel, it says, Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last. Matthew doesn't tell us what Jesus said, but other gospels do. We all know what Jesus says with that last voice. It is finished, is what Jesus declares. It is finished. The voice that says from Jesus, I am enough. My voice speaks the loudest and the final truth. My blood has covered your betrayals and your sorrows and your griefs and your accusations and your rage. I am enough. It is finished. So I invite you this Palm Sunday and this Holy Week to strain your ears. And not just your ears, strain with everything that is in you, everything that you are, to hear amidst all the voices telling you what to feel and how to be and who you are. Strain to hear the true voice, the loudest voice, the voice that speaks the final word, which is the voice of Jesus that says, it is finished. Stop your striving, stop your need to be better, stop your need to get everything just right. I am enough for you. That is the word that Jesus proclaims to us from the cross. That is the voice that pierces all of that cacophony of voices, that tells us where we need to be, who we need to be, and whose we always are. This week, as in all of life, listen hard, because he is proclaiming it. He is proclaiming, I am enough for you. It is finished.